When a county school district in Tennessee banned the World War II Holocaust graphic novel Mouse from their 8th grade curriculum in January of 2022, it made national headlines, caused controversy, and confused many, including the book's author, Art Spiegelman, who said he was baffled by the school board's decision and called the move Orwellian. First serialized from 1980 to 1991 in the avant-garde comics magazine Raw, and published in 2 collected editions, the first in 1986 and the second in 1991, Mouse tells 2 parallel true-life narratives. The first, the story of Spiegelman's father, Władek Spiegelman, a Polish Jew who survived the Holocaust and then immigrated to the U.S. with his wife in 1951. And second, the story of Art Spiegelman himself, an adult cartoonist and underground comics artist making a living in New York City, soliciting the stories and memories of his father in order to better understand their tragic family history. What made Mouse particularly notable was Spiegelman's decision to depict the horrific realities of the Holocaust through a unique visual presentation, taking advantage of his cartoonist background and the creative possibilities of the graphic novel format, with the Jews depicted as mice and the Nazis depicted as cats through the bulk of the book's pages. The decision spoke to Spiegelman's own thoughts on the potential for comics to tackle ugly realities. In 1970, he had jotted down a thought in a notebook, musing, maybe Western civilization has forfeited any right to literature with a big L. Maybe vulgar, semi-literate, unsubtle comic books are an appropriate form for speaking of the unspeakable. Still, few at the time of Mouse's publication would dare to label it vulgar or semi-literate. In fact, it was celebrated for making the history of the Holocaust more accessible to a larger audience. In 1992, Spiegelman was awarded a special Pulitzer Prize for the book, and soon Mouse became a perennial school favorite, regularly being taught in middle schools, high schools, and college history classes around the country, which made its ban in Tennessee in 2022 even more shocking, though many at the time were quick to point out, and label Mouse the latest unfortunate victim of, a then rising tide of conservative, right-wing fueled book banning crusades throughout America, often targeting books that discussed structural racism and LGBTQ issues. Many critics of this movement openly wondered if a book decrying the horrors of the Holocaust was another easy target for banning in a country they saw as itself turning more towards fascism. For their part, the school board in question swore their main concern with Mouse was one of vulgarity, citing 8 curse words and what they described as a sexually explicit drawing of a nude woman. It was this claim that especially bothered Spiegelman, who pointed out the only drawing of a naked woman in the book is specifically from a section about the suicide of his mother, who had tragically taken her own life in the bathtub. Spiegelman decried this labeling of the illustration of a naked corpse as a potentially sexually explicit nude woman, saying, "Anybody who could get their jollies off of Mouse is probably in need of far greater help than anything the school could offer." As the school and library book banning push continues throughout America, it remains to be seen whether other school boards across the country will follow suit and ban Mouse, or whether the large public outcry and media mockery that followed the initial ban will make others hesitant to do so, allowing the book to remain a vital teaching tool in numerous schools. What is interesting to note, though, is that the Tennessee mouse banning is not even the first high-profile story of an artistic output that Spiegelman had been involved in being banned in schools, though the other was arguably of a far less academic nature. Because, in fact, during the 80s, while he was still serializing the mouse chapters in Raw, Spiegelman also worked at the Topps Chewing Gum and Trading Card Company, where he was the co-creator and one of the artistic designers behind a wildly popular, but also wildly controversial, line of parody-based cards, one that would itself be banned in many schools across the country. And even though Spiegelman's own mouse publishers were concerned the public would find out about his involvement with these cards before the collected editions of Mouse were released, Spiegelman himself has remained publicly proud of his own work on their creation. And why not? The controversy surrounding them only made them more popular at the time, popular enough to even spawn their own attempted movie franchise. The year is 1987, and the Atlantic Entertainment Group and Topps Chewing Gum Company are ready to release a new big-screen adaptation of one of Topps' most successful trading card lines, and in the process, hopefully launch the next big gross-out comedy franchise with the Garbage Pail Kids Movie. Welcome once again to Failure to Franchise, the show dedicated to some of Hollywood's most infamous mistakes, missteps, and misfires. This is Trev.
And I'm Chris. And Trev, it's all come to this.
It has.
My life is now defined by two eras, BGPK and AGPK, before Garbage Pail Kids and after Garbage Pail Kids. And I am fundamentally changed as a person.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say right off the top. It has all been building to this. The podcast, our lives.
Yep.
It's just... Our lives. There's just no way you were going to get through your entire life.
The primordial ooze was the ooze that came out of these garbage cans. Which we'll
imagine if you had been 99, laying on your deathbed, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm giving you 99 because you got that Canadian healthcare.
Yeah, for sure. I'm outliving you for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't deny it. And plus, I'm already like 38 years older than you, so but you're laying there at 99,
sure.
just about to slip into the whatever that next great adventure is. Mm-hmm. Imagine if you had to say, "But wait, I never saw the Garbage Pail Kids movie." Like I don't even like.
And then you just ripped a huge fart.
Yeah, and then blew a huge snot and like.
I guess that's what happens. Though I mean, I die and I just soil myself. Yeah, it's fitting. It's fitting.
So this is the big finale, though. This is the big finale for us of Summer Surprise, or as we have alternately been calling it, Small Town Witch Summer. And
which I have to cut you off here, and I know you're probably going there, anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so
we normally get right into the movie we're covering, but breaking news. We have to derail this for a second.
Yes. Okay, longtime listeners know that I speak quite regularly about simulation theory and my Matrix moments. And Trev, you get one from me texted to you probably every day or two that I'm like, can you believe this coincidence? Yada yada. Anyways, this Summer Surprise where we make an online randomizer, choose our movies for the summer, unbeknownst to us, picked a bunch of small town witch movies. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's that, which has been quite shocking, honestly.
Which you heard us kind of discover, like on the last episode when
yes.
we did House of the Clock and Swallows, because we had Elvira Misses the Dark, then we had Beautiful Creatures, and then House of the Clock and Swallows.
Totally. So, anyways, there's a movie out. There's a new horror movie out right now. Okay.
Right, and we don't want to spoil too much about it because
we don't. It's and I guess I'll say this. Well, we're kind of burying the lead so much now that you pretty much know what it's going to be, but.
We won't get into specifics, but it has been out for 2 weeks and it's made a shitload of money. So chances are, if you wanted to see it, you've seen it.
You're right. Well, there's a horror movie called Weapons, and it's out right now. And me and Trev were really excited to see it. And we went on different days, and Trev saw it before me. And
we're also in different countries.
Well, that too. Yeah. But he knows that I like to kind of avoid trailers and talk about a bunch of stuff that I'm in the bag for already. So I go see the movie and I don't even know I know Trev likes it, of course, but I go see it. And the first thing I text Trev as the credits are rolling in front of me is Small Town Witch Summer continues. So, pretty wild. If you've seen Weapons,
but also the star of Beautiful Creatures, Alden Ehrenreich, is in Weapons.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Insane.
Yes.
And then on top of that, like a couple days ago, Eli Roth, director of House of a Clock in Its Walls, had a Variety article.
Let's set the context here. Let's remind people that in our episode of House of the Clock in Its Walls, when talking about Eli Roth, you brought up the fact that one of the things that you kind of dislike about him is how he is the ultimate coattail rider. And you said in the episode, I don't think I've ever seen or heard an Eli Roth interview where he does not bring up Quentin Tarantino's name. So there's the context.
Yes, and he had a Variety article talking about this new fake trailer thing that he made, and then getting people back to the theater for horror movies. Anyways, and the first quote that he says in this article is, I want to see a movie that I need to call Quentin Tarantino about. And it was like, what? It's totally unprompted. Nobody mentions Quentin's name. Just, of course, Eli Roth has to suckle the sweet, sweet the teats of Mr. Quentin Tarantino. So it was just insane. So I sent that to Trev this morning.
Yeah. An article published just days after our episode. It's almost as if he listened to our episode and he's like, "This one's for Chris. I'm just throwing it out there."
Yeah,
but really, it's more. This one's for Quentin, like everything is. So.
I know, right? He's actually blocked right now, and that's his only. This is the only way that he can get to Quentin right now.
That's what I was thinking. Is like, is there any movie that you watch, Eli, that you don't call Quentin about? And I'm sure Quentin loves getting those calls.
I know, a bunch of new.
Quentin's too busy stoking his own ego on podcast interviews, where he's talking about how he's one of the greatest filmmakers alive. So only another great filmmaker like Fincher could make a sequel to his movies.
Oh yeah, he did just say that, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he said something like his he was self-describing his best films and his favorites, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Which I actually agree with, but
I agree too. But as I said it in that episode. Tarantino is one of my favorite directors, if not my favorite. But kind of a tough person to listen to sometimes, talk about himself particularly, and just like the tragedy, the what's becoming almost the humorous tragedy of how he's wrapped himself up into this stupid 10 movie thing, and you can tell it's like killing him and destroying his mind. But,
if only he could take directorial jobs like Mr. Rod Amato.
Ooh, this is why they call you the king of transitions.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the final movie in our Summer Surprise series, and that is 1987's The Garbage Pail Kids Movie. Chris, you already mentioned the director, but why don't you just remind and tell us a little bit more about the Garbage Pail Kids movie?
Yes. So again, directed and written by Rod Amato. He's a lot of TV. Goes back all the way to the 1950s. It's also written by Linda Palmer. Some TV credits, I guess. So we'll get to the inception of the movie and everything too, but from all accounts, it sounded like they were going to the TV market first, unbeknownst to a lot of the cast. So that's why you have this level of talent. It is based on the trading cards. This is a first for F2F. We got trading cards, baby, by the Topps Company, and they were released in 1985, which is shocking to me because this movie was rushed out so friggin' quick. It is insane to me that the cards come out in 1985, and 2 years later, I guess $1.5 million worth of people worldwide went to go see this movie in theaters.
That's the way we did it in the 80s. We didn't mess around back then. Something hits, you capitalize and you cash in on that as fast as you can.
Okay, and because you are a child of the 80s, did you own these cards?
Oh yes. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Oh yeah. No, I like most kids of the 80s, I think. I was a huge Garbage Pail Kids card fanatic.
You were one yourself.
I actually have very visceral memories of the specific card store in the mall I would go to buy new packs, and as we get into the history of them, just I don't know if you knew this, but in each series, there was obviously the different pictures of the Garbage Pail Kids, but the way they would kind of make them collectible was every kid had two names, so you were trying to get both cards with that illustration because it would have two different names,
right?
And then it became a whole thing where you're trading them with your friends, and then they're also stickers, so you could pull off the stickers and stick them all over your folders and your Trapper Keepers, and your walls in your bedroom and whatever. I think I had Garbage Pail Kids stickers stuck onto the bedposts of my bed in my room. I thought
into your 20s.
That's probably true actually, since I was still in that bedroom for quite a while. But no, I loved them. I thought they were hilarious. I thought for the same reason all the kids liked them.
Sure.
I guess we should put some more context on what they are. Yeah. But yeah.
So I guess
let me just quickly ask before I do.
Sure.
What about you? Did it just completely miss you?
Completely, 1000% miss me. Yeah, this is something that is so alien to me. Not the idea of trading cards and stuff, but this level of parody on Cabbage Patch Kids and
before we decided to do this movie and before you knew this movie was coming up, did you have any kind of pop culture awareness of this at all? Did it somehow filter in in any way where you were aware that there once was a phenomenon called the Garbage Pail Kids? Or
quite possibly because of you. Yeah. I don't know if I would I can nail down where were you when the towers fell, you know what I mean? When it comes to Garbage Pail Kids, but I think this has probably come up in the ether of our now 10-year relationship here. So I think that's probably where it is. But other than that, no. I mostly realized what it was when this was added to our list. And also one of our favorite YouTube channels, Red Letter Media, did a video essay on it like a few years ago. So that's it for me. But you said we should say to the listeners what the hell these cards are. And really, they are a parody of Cabbage Patch Kids. Every card had the art on there that showed like a child with like a deformity or suffering like a fate of death or something. Like they had like an abnormality on them, basically,
or just doing something gross,
Yes, they were meant to be gross and disgusting.
Well, I can give a little bit more context because I have a reveal for you, Chris, and it's one that you're probably I'm sure this is not going to surprise you at all. But I decided to do a little extra work for this episode.
Yep.
And besides watching the Garbage Pail Kids movie, earlier today I also watched the 2-hour documentary 30 Years of Garbage, the Garbage Pail Kids story.
Oh my god. You need help.
And I gotta say, glad I did. We'll save our thoughts on the Garbage Pail Kids movie for our review. Quite enjoyed the documentary. It's actually a very, very good documentary if you're at all interested in this franchise, but also if you're just kind of interested in the kind of very concept of underground art, and in particular like underground art as filtered through something made for kids and how subversive that is. And just like all these cool like 80s like artists who are working at Topps, who were these like underground comics icons, and just these subversive artists. And so just to provide a little bit more context, you said like that was kind of strange for you to even think about these like trading card type things, but as a reminder of like the kind of series that led to like what Topps had done in the past. And this whole idea of, is there any kind of narrative potential to trading cards? I know there's a movie you and I both do really like that is based on a previous Topps trading card series, which is Mars Attacks. Topps had been doing things like Mars Attacks and Dinosaurs Attacks. And then in like the late 70s and early 80s, a lot of this kind of like subversive kids humor was showing up in stuff like Mad Magazine and everything.
Right.
And one of the trading card series that Topps did at that time was something called Wacky Packages. And I remember that as well because I kind of forgot about it until it came up in this documentary. But suddenly I was reminded, like, oh yeah, I had those too. They never were as big as Garbage Pail Kids, but I had some of those. Same idea. Every card was a parody of a package you would see, like a commercial product you would see in the store, right? So a parody of different cigarette brand logos or soda logos, car company logos or whatever, but with like, a humorous take on it. So a Mad Magazine version of that. And one of those they did was Garbage Pail Kids, making fun of Cabbage Patch Kids. And then, like, the guy who was in charge of Topps, maybe I'm getting these exact details wrong. One of the guys who worked at Topps thought that idea was kind of too good to just be its own singular thing. And also, as a reminder for people who, didn't live through this era, maybe only heard about it, the Cabbage Patch Kids dolls at the time, which these are like visually based on, was another huge phenomenon in the 80s. Like kind of the first big toy that was causing like riots in the malls around Christmas time because they were so like sparse and parents were beating each other up to try and get Cabbage Patch Kids for their children. So Topps wanted to like kind of cash in on that. They actually went to the company that owned Cabbage Patch Kids and said, hey, could we make trading cards of the Cabbage Patch Kids? Your dolls are different characters. We'll do the trading cards for them. And the company said, no, we're not really interested in trading cards. And the way they actually said it in the documentary was one of the guys at Topps just said, okay, let's do a fuck you version then. And so that's how they actually defined it. They said if they don't want to give us the rights, we'll do a fuck you version. They went back to that Garbage Pail Kids trading card from Wacky Packages and said, let's just develop this even further.
Right.
And, as mentioned in my intro, like one of the interesting things is that Art Spiegelman, the creator of Mouse, was like involved with the creation of Garbage Pail Kids. But really like all the various artists who worked on it all seemed very talented and very like kind of, cool and hip and underground in this documentary. The main one, of course, being John Pound, who at the very beginning of the series, he basically did all of them. He painted all of them, and he was talking about how he painted one a day because they did like a rush thing where they're like, we need to have like 30 cards by like next month. So he had to like come up and draw them, do a quick colored version, and then paint like one card a day. And that's pretty impressive when you see how elaborate the art is on them. But yeah, so that's kind of like the context of them, is they were definitely made to cash in on the Cabbage Patch Kids and parody them. But at a time also where you have to remember that the 80s were very just commercially driven towards kids. This is the heyday and era of Saturday morning cartoons, and a lot of like very strange kids movies. I mean, we've looked at something like Mac and Me, and then you have to remember like just how many like kids creature movies there were at the time. So this was just kind of ticking all the boxes. And what really made them blow up, but also made them controversial, was that they were so disgusting, so gross, that they really became this thing that and I kind of even remember this a little bit too. I think my parents never had a problem, but they definitely became a thing where a lot of kids collected them, and it was kind of a secret you kept from your parents. You know, it was like, because you like, they were so gross that a lot of schools and like, you know, religious organizations and stuff wanted to like boycott them and protest them. So kids were collecting them because they were cheap. You could afford them as a kid, but you would buy them and then kind of stash them away somewhere in your bedroom so your parents didn't know you had them because they were so disgusting. And so that fed into the popularity as well.
The whole idea was to get kids so interested that they would just start collecting them and get kicked out of school for having them, and like you're saying, hide them under their bed and this and that. And it just felt like it met it on the kids' level. You know what I mean?
Well, we talked about this in the House of the Clock in Its Walls episode, right? About how kids like being scared. Well, what else do kids like? Farts and boogers, you know, and violence, really. You know, these, you know, and anything that feels like you're not supposed to have it, that has that, it's a level of subversion that kids definitely respond to, because some of them are like really intense. Some of them depict the kids, you know, kind of like in like suicide-esque situations, and really kind of like, you know, brutal violence things happening, obviously with a cartoon bent. But I think any kid would look at it and go like, I don't know if I'm supposed to have this, but of course that just makes it more catnip for kids. You know,
it was you said it was banned in schools and this and that, but it was actually banned by the Mexican government. I thought this was funny, due to their export and import law banning all representations of minors in a degrading or ridiculous manner, in attitudes of incitement to violence, self-destruction, or in any other form of antisocial behavior. So you could not get these. This was the original black market Mexican product. They're not bringing over their best. Sorry.
They show that in the documentary, and it made me laugh because it's a great part of the documentary where they show that still to this day, they actually pull out like all the FedEx like bylaws, and you go like way down the FedEx like lists of rules and regulations, and that rule is still in there, and it still it specifically calls out the Garbage Pail Kids trading cards as something that they will not allow to come in. Yeah.
But these things were worldwide. Like, I know you're in the States, and they were big in the States, but they were big everywhere. Like, I just want to name them, because they started to name them different things, of course, for translation reasons. But like in Japan, they were called Bukimi-kun, which was Mr. Creepy. Love that. Spain called them La Pandilla Basura, which is the garbage gang. Latin America called them Basuritas, which is trashlings. Love that one, by the way. In Italy, my brethren, Scorpions, they called them snotlings. France called them... Yeah, totally. France called them Les Crados. Well, that sounds more Spanish, but the Filthies is in France. But they were friggin' everywhere. Everywhere.
That was interesting, too, in the documentary, how they showed like the Japanese version. They made the point about how the most iconic Garbage Pail Kid, and the one who's kind of like, you know, the central figure for it, is Atom Bomb, who is the kid who it's a kid who's pushing the red button, like the nuke button, and then a nuke like explosion, a mushroom cloud is going off from his head, and he is kind of the Garbage Pail Kid. He was on the front of the packages, so he is like the icon of the series. But then they mentioned that, like, well, when you translate that, when you take it over to Japan, he's not going to be on the cover of the card packs there for obvious reasons. So they don't have to go with a different character there. Yeah.
So since you did the homework of this documentary, and by the way, did Mark Newgarden, was he in the documentary?
Yeah, I believe. I think I trying to remember specifically if he was, but I feel like all those early guys were. That's what I really liked about it. Like, that's the thing that I would say, if people, like I mentioned, I said this already, but just to say one, like, if you're interested in Garbage Pail Kids, but also if you're just interested in the idea of like underground artists in that time, because the movie is just like very, very interesting to see what that scene was like in New York, and how the Topps headquarters was in this like shitty little building in like Brooklyn, you know, and just like how interesting it is that this whole empire was built out of there from just these like young upstart punks, you know, who were just like, they talk in there about how, like, I think it's Art Spiegelman, who talks about how, you know, there was like, if you were an artist, the different levels of respectability, you know, and how you could be a commercial artist and that's very respectable. You could be a comic book artist, that's not very respectable. And he's like, and then even below that was trading cards, right? But so it was, they knew, they felt like they were on the lower rung, so they kind of felt like they had nothing to lose when making this. Again,
these things were so big. They sold over 1 billion cards worldwide.
Yeah.
Did you ever catch the? Oh, actually, no. It never was finished. I just realized it because CBS made a cartoon about it.
It was finished but never aired. It was finished but never aired because it has since been released on DVD and you can easily find it on YouTube. I didn't know about it until watching the documentary, and that's when I found out about it. And they show how they even contacted CBS and asked if they could show clips, and CBS denied it.
Oh, of course.
That sent me, like, after the documentary, just going online really quickly to see see what it looked like. And I think they've even said, I think that's in your kind of research, that the Topps people weren't very impressed with it, and I could kind of tell by looking at it too. It's a very, obviously, as you would expect, it's a very neutered version of the Garbage Pail Kids, but even that couldn't make it on TV because before it debuted, different parents, teacher councils, and everything kind of boycotted it, and we're just telling people to send in cards to CBS saying we won't support your channel if you ever air this. So it just never even made it to air. Yeah,
and this is all around the time too that they were sued by the Cabbage Patch Kids company, right? Yeah, so they eventually got sued, and then. Topps had to slightly change the design of the cards and the characters, and then also change the logo because I guess the original logo was almost identical. So, I guess they got called on it, but
they changed it to where then the later series of the cards, instead of looking like the cloth dolls that are the Cabbage Patch Kids, they made them all like appear to be hard plastic and with jointed limbs, and then everyone always had like a crack in the head, so you could tell it was like hard plastic that was cracking. So they just made like slight little cosmetic changes. So I don't know. To me, that it barely seems like a change.
Sure, but it was enough for a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Did you how many did you have? Like, did you have hundreds? Like, did you have like all of them?
Oh,
like,
that's hard to remember because like now I remember the craze. I remember collecting them. I remember loving them. But like to try and push my mind back that much in my memory back to remember how many I had, I don't know. I do remember. I'm not the type who I didn't have like a binder that I was putting them in or anything. I think I just had them kind of like loose all over the place, and I definitely would take the stickers off and, like I said, put them on different things. So I don't know. I couldn't even tell you if I ever had like a complete collection of one of the series or anything. I just remember a time, and like anything in the 80s, it was probably a brief time too. I was probably like really, really into them for a few months. And then everything like that, when you're a young kid, and the 80s was just pumping out new stuff for kids constantly, I think a lot of stuff would flame out fairly quickly. So I'm sure my interest probably lasted like very hot and heavy for a little bit, and then I kind of moved on to the next hot thing, which whatever that was, probably TMNT or something, So
I guess that makes sense again why they rushed this movie into production so quickly too, because people they lose their fire real quick. Because that's exactly what happened here. These cards were so big, as Trev's talking about, rushing this movie into production. They get this Rod Amato guy. He's near the end of his career, by the way. And he, I think, directs this one and then retires.
I think he even said he took this job just so he could get like the last movie on his contract, get out of the way so he could retire.
Yeah, pure paycheck movie for sure. It was shot in only 60 days, and again, rushing it through. We talk a lot about movies usually taking a good 3 months to make, and this one, which has so many animatronics and makeup effects and this and that, 60 days does seem very, very quick. This movie had, the budget was only $1 million, which is not a lot of money, even in 1987. Sorry. This one was just rushed.
Too. I think it's an important. I think, but I also think another important distinction. I don't know if you mentioned this. Sorry, but
sure.
We should mention that like Topps was basically not at all involved with this.
No.
In fact, the actual people at Topps who were like the doing the nitty gritty work on Garbage Pail Kids they don't even remember how this movie even got like sold, and how this happened, because they said like nobody came to them to talk about it. So clearly, Atlantic Entertainment Group, who made the movie, they wanted to do the movie, and they just went kind of above their heads, but not really. I mean, they went to the higher ups at Topps, who were in charge of like the bigger like licensing deals and everything, and said, can we make a Garbage Pail Kids movie? And then they got the rights, and they just wrote their own script, did their own thing, and they never bothered to like actually give the actual artists who were the heart of Garbage Pail Kids any kind of input on it. So that's really important to remember, because that'll filter into the discussion of the movie, and it's certainly, you can tell in the documentary, that's still a sore spot for all of them.
Well, I had mentioned Mark Newgarden's name, and he was instrumental in creating these cards with Art Spiegelman as well. Spiegelman, but he even says after their initial meeting with Rod Amato, they were basically taken out of, they were completely taken out of the loop at this point. Yeah. So the one meeting, and then boom, the movie's being made, and then the artists that were created everything were basically locked out.
And it definitely was not. It's not like then it was being made by people who really cared and wanted to make the best, Garbage Pail Kids movie. You mentioned how this was just a job for Rod Amatow. I want to read a quote from him.
Yes,
we're talking
please
about
do.
that, because he said he had, by this time, he was, as you mentioned, he did a lot of TV work, but he'd done some movies too. He's a journeyman director, but he's also very, very like open about being a journeyman director. Right? So he said in the complicated structure of guild politics, of Directors Guild politics, it's important that minor directors like me, and that's what I was, a minor director. Minor directors like me fill their pension fund and their health and welfare. And many times we don't have the luxury, any more than a clerical worker has, we don't have the luxury of picking and choosing. So somebody says, do you want to do this? And before the man's finished, you say, yes. And don't think I haven't done that. I mean, there are directors who say, I won't do that no matter what, and they mean it, and they either starve or are successful subsequently. But I neither had the ability, the talent, or the connections to have that kind of luxury. I do appreciate that honesty.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying, like, look, I took this job. I didn't know what the Garbage Pail Kids were. I didn't care. I was like 60. This is well beyond like my, I had no knowledge of it. But hey, it was the last job on my contract. It was a job that would keep my health insurance going for a little bit, and then I could retire.
Yeah, and I guess he wanted to maybe make it animated, maybe make it somewhat like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but again, $1 million price tag. They got to get little people in masks. That's what they got to do. And that had its own huge amount of problems too. Basically, these masks and headgear that these little people wore during the making of the movie, they couldn't see through them. They couldn't hear through them. They had to scream their lines through them. Rod had to yell at them action or cut or anything. They would miss their marks because they would fall over each other. It was very, very bad. And on top of that, they filmed in a warehouse, not even a studio lot. They filmed in some warehouse where it had no air conditioning, so these little people were just sweltering. And I have another great quote from Mr. Rod Amatow. And he says, we got dwarves. There's plenty of them. We got dwarves. We got dwarves, and we put heads on them and found out how long they could survive in there without breathing. And it turned out to be about 5 or 7 minutes. So you had to rehearse everything without the heads on, put the heads on, have a paramedic with a stopwatch. Little sons of bitches go in there and you say action, and you shoot until they can't breathe.
I said I appreciate his honesty on the previous comments. This one, you hear and you go, Rod, you don't have to be that honest.
No.
Some things you can keep to yourself. Some of your feelings you can keep to yourself.
Oh my god. So yeah, this.
I mean, I will say to the production's credit, we should mention that they did get a really talented kind of, if you're in the horror circles, somewhat legendary effects artist to design and create these costumes. And that is John Carl Buechler. Mm-hmm. The problem being, I mean, the problem being that then he, like everything else, he was just very rushed. So he, I think he's the right guy for the job based on the fact that he had worked on stuff like Ghoulies, which is obviously the same, kind of has the same kind of little animatronic puppets and everything. He was just so rushed that they could only make one head for each Garbage Pail Kid character. So if the head got damaged, it kind of shut down production while they had to fix it. Yeah. And then also the movie was so rushed that they never really got to nail the inner mechanical workings that would really make the faces as expressive as they wanted. So with more time, it definitely would have nailed that element of it a little bit more. But they basically were almost filming with the prototype versions because it was so rushed. So kind of feel bad for him because I think this movie is kind of a little black mark on his reputation, but it's not entirely his fault, obviously.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, it's come to this.
You can only put off talking about this movie so long. Unfortunately, we don't have much more history to discuss. So.
No. So let's get to it on the other side of this.
Once upon a time, or was it more recently, there was a young boy named Dodger. He was the sort of child who was always left out of things. Each day after school, Dodger works in a junk shop owned by the mysterious Captain Mancini.
Witch's broth and vampire's brew. Make these clothes as good as new.
Dodger has never had a family or a friend he could call his own. Until now. What's that?
They came out to help us.
Meet the Garbage Pail Kids.
Starring Nat Nerd, Windy Winston, Messy Tessie,
Give him a chance, Tangerine. You'll like him.
Alligator, Valerie Vomit, Lisa Gray,
I'm gonna get fired for this.
Foul Phil,
Nice to the toes.
The Garbage Pail Kids Movie. They may not be pretty, but boy, they make great friends. Starring Anthony Newley and Mackenzie Aston. The Garbage Pail Kids Movie.
A teenage boy named Dodger accidentally sets free a gang of disgusting mutant kids living in a garbage can. Their repulsive powers, such as continually flowing snot, the capacity to blow a mega fart on command, or a superhuman ability to vomit, make them the perfect team to help Dodger fight against his rival bullies in order to win the affection from the girl of his dreams. It's an age-old story, really.
Oh, that's it. Okay,
That's it.
I didn't know.
That's it.
You know what? Really, you don't want to go beat by beat on this one?
No,
Okay.
no, it's fine. No.
All right. Well, Chris, I have a little bit more history with this property, as we talked about before the break. So I'm mostly interested. I'll talk about my feelings on the movie in a second, but obviously I'm interested to hear from you as someone who came into this, as an entire Garbage Pail Kids newbie. How did the movie sit with you?
Well, you might be shocked here, but I found this not bad. Just kidding. I think this is absolutely horrid. This is a horrid movie. And I don't even know where to begin. It's only like 90 minutes or 100 minutes or whatever, but it took me about 2.5 hours to watch it. I had to pause a couple times to like go do other things just because I couldn't sit there and pay attention to everything that I was seeing. This is exactly what I thought it was going to be. In like the worst way. It's kind of amazing that it exists, I guess. It's wild that there was $1.5 million put into this, which again isn't a lot of money, but
No, 1 million put into it, 1.5 million made.
oh, right. Yeah. So I mean, even that.
That's still amazing. Yeah.
Dude, this was really hard for me to watch. There was a point at like the hour mark that I was just like barely paying attention anymore. That like I knew generally what the plot was happening, but I was like, this is just noise. I can't do it. It's going. I'm so glad you mentioned like the 1980s, kids in their rubber monster movies, right? Like Ghoulies and we've talked about Mac and Me, and like I get that it's going for like this mischievous gremlin like hijinks, but these things are so fucking gross, and I know that's the point, right? So like, okay, I guess check mark, like they made them disgusting, but they're not like cool or cuddly enough. They're just obnoxious, annoying, and disgusting. And this is a movie made for people who thought the Jack Black baby puppet in The House in the Clock in Its Walls was too cute, And it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss. I have a lot of notes, but the last thing I wrote in my notes, and I underlined it 3 times, I just called it horrid. Like this is an ugly movie. And this is like the bottom for me. This is the bottom. This is on Metacritic. I read that this is a 1 out of 100. Like, yeah, sure. That's what I got to say for now.
Do you like really want to meet the people responsible for that one?
Yeah.
Or do you not want to meet them?
No. They need to be studied, and we need to find them just so they can't cause any more harm in their lives to other people. Because like this is a 0-star movie, you know. And there's not many of those that I feel are out there and that I've seen in my life, but there are a few, and this is a 0-star movie. There's like, to me, and maybe you're gonna tell me that there's something, but I'm gonna disagree. And like, did Liz, your fiance, watch this with you?
Oh, she did. Yes. Divorce proceedings are underway.
Okay. Yeah, that's okay. Because Brittany did not watch this with me. Thank God she was on her bachelorette trip. Because
for all you know, maybe they were all watching it. Maybe that was part of the bachelorette.
Yeah, it became a hazing ritual all of a sudden. But like, I'm just glad she didn't witness me watching this. Honestly, like, I think there's a lot of movies she dips in and out of.
You think she wouldn't be able to love you the same way anymore?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is that's all I gotta say for now. Trev, you take it. You take the reins. I need a moment. I need a moment.
I'm going to tell you something that'll probably surprise you, given that two elements. First, I told you that I was a huge Garbage Pail Kids fan at this time, you know, as a young kid in the 80s. And the other element being that you know me very well after, you know, our years-long friendship. You know that I'm a man who seeks out so bad it's good cinema, and like, you know, like the classic like bad movies that everyone loves, like Troll 2 and Mac and Me.
You just discovered a new one. You just discovered a new one from this year. War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds, yeah. So, you know, that I love watching those. Put those two things together, you'd be surprised to know this was still a first-time watch for me. Oh, wow. That does surprise me.
In whole, I remember seeing, like, scenes, like, on cable in the past, but this was the first time I ever sat down and watched this movie. So and that's pretty telling, right? That even 7-year-old Trev was like, yeah, like when this came out, you know, and like I said, it might have been that I was already over the craze, but I think more likely it was that even as a kid, I kind of heard the reputation of this movie, and that is the thing, is like that reputation had stuck with me, and it was a movie that even though I knew it was supposed to be infamously bad, I really always did get the vibe that people would say, yeah, but it's not bad in a fun way. It's bad in a truly bad way. It's like you said, it's a hard one to watch. I'm glad you made the joke about how this is for people who thought the Jack Black baby was like too cute, because it really begs the question: who is this movie for? You know, that's the really hard thing to figure out, and I think that feeds into the problem with this movie. I mean, long story short, I didn't like it. So let me just go.
Thank God.
I'm with you on this. Is probably in the bottom 3 of the movies we've watched.
Yeah.
And the thing, but see, this is why I said earlier when you were kind of like making fun of me for watching that 2-hour documentary about the history of it. But one of the reasons I'm really glad I did was it really contextualized, as I watched the documentary, why the movie wasn't working for me, at least in a large thematic way. Like, obviously there's a lot of stuff just broken on a movie level, you know. But I was watching it, and it made me realize when I was really into the Garbage Pail Kids as a kid, you know, like, and as many kids were, collecting cards, thinking they're so interesting, thinking the art is so incredible, thinking it's so funny and so gross and so cool, right? You know what I never thought in my head while I was collecting them? I never thought they were aliens.
I know.
I never thought they were like a gang of aliens that hang out in a garbage can in the middle of an antique shop. And I definitely was never collecting the cards, trading it with my friends, putting the stickers all over the place and going, man, you know what I'd really like to see these Garbage Pail Kids get up to? Getting involved in the world of high fashion. Watching the documentary and hear all the people who made Garbage Pail Kids and all the grown-up fans now who like grew up on it, and all like the underground art fanatics talk about it, and what I said about the idea of like how it was so cool because it was so subversive for kids, what this movie should have 100% been about was the Garbage Pail Kids fucking with like adults.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Gremlins.
The movie should be about these things that make adults uncomfortable, but kids can latch onto them somewhat. And I know that you could say like the movie's kind of doing that, but not to the level I'm talking about. It's just not the wrong. There's a lot wrong with this movie. The story on just a basic level is wrong in that, honestly, what this movie probably should have been is that a kid who has Garbage Pail Kids cards, somehow the cards come to life. And then those Garbage Pail Kids actually get involved with like the parent-teacher groups who have been trying to ban the cards.
Sure.
You know, all the church in the town, the different religious leaders, the different parents, the different principals and teachers. They're like trying to stop the Garbage Pail Kids, and the Garbage Pail Kids are just being like disgusting and making like a mess of the town, and the kids are loving it. That's the movie.
Yeah.
Why they came up with this stupid story with like a magician keeping them prisoner in a garbage pail in his antique shop, and then the young boy who has a crush on this girl and her boyfriend and their gang who creates like fashion to sell. I'm just so, what is this movie? That story is not, no kid is going to be interested in that story.
No.
So it doesn't seem like it's made for kids, but the humor is not subversive enough to pitch to adults. So it's just a very, very confused movie on top of its obvious production issues, how, you know, unappealing the kids are to look at, which probably wouldn't have been a problem if the movie was like worked on another level. It's just like nothing works. So everything that's even slightly bad becomes amazingly bad, and it just starts to get on your nerves as you watch it.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not lying to you. I texted you. If you look at the timestamps of when I was texting you while watching it, you'll notice that it took me over 2 hours to watch this movie. You know, and it's not 2 hours long. And the character of Dodger, played by Mackenzie Aston, it's one of his, I think it's his first role in a major motion picture.
Should point out brother-in-law, or no, sorry, half-brother of Sean Astin.
No shit. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Mackenzie Aston's dad is John Astin, Gomez Adams himself, and his mom is Patty Duke. So he comes from Hollywood royalty. Yeah.
And he was recently in one of your favorite shows,
The Pit.
The Pit. The Pit.
Yeah.
And
no, he's kept acting, and even at this point, he was coming off of a 3 season run on Silver Spoons, so he was a successful TV actor. But
and as a Matrix moment, I mentioned the Owen Wilson show Stick.
Yeah.
In our I Spy episode, he's in it. So
yeah,
there you go. Another Matrix moment was me turning this movie on, and in the middle of Small Town Witch Summer, and I sent you this video of me watching the movie live, and I'll just put the clip here.
Some guys. Did you report it to the police?
Last guy who snitched on Jews got poured into the West Side Highway.
Really? Witch's broth and vampire's brew make these clothes as good as new.
Unfucking believable. Unfucking believable. We got more. We got more witchy summers.
Yeah. If you're wondering if this checked our witch box, it certainly did. Yes.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Blew my mind. Weirdly enough, Captain Manzini, played by Anthony Newley, he wrote the score to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and the most famous song, the song that I can't remember right now. Pure Imagination, right?
Yeah.
That one. Okay. Yeah, okay. So what bothers me, I think maybe the most, is if you want to like just, you know, really pigeonhole into why the movie fundamentally fails as is like a kids movie, is I don't think that there's really any emotional connection or anything between the Garbage Pail Kids and this kid Dodger. And that sucks, because for whatever reason, these mutant kids, these alien mutants, are really good seamstresses, and then Dodger uses that to his advantage to try to fuck this older girl, and it's like that doesn't resonate for a kid. Number one, that makes no sense. But there's no like Billy and Gizmo relationship, you know? Like there's a world where Dodger is looking out for them, and they get him out of a bind in a different way, and they connect emotionally, and they're looking after each other, and they love each other, and then hijinks ensue, you know? But instead, it's just cacophonous fucking garbage. Like, for lack of a better term, it's just really bad. It's constant fart, piss, snot jokes, and I don't know, you don't buy into it. You know, you don't, it's, who do we blame? Like, what,
I mean, I would probably start with Rod Amato since he did also
Yeah.
co-write this. So he comes in, he gets hired to do this, and then he even takes a crack at writing it, even though he's admittedly just does not care about the IP at all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's just going off the idea of like these weird little creatures, and I'm guessing he probably sat down and watched some of those '80s kids creature movies we talked about, and just like, okay, I'll do my version of that.
Yeah.
But his version, like I just don't know who he's pitching it at, because like you said, like yeah, like if we could actually cared about Dodger and his relationship with the Garbage Pail Kids, the movie would work a lot better. But I mean, even on like a basic storytelling level, it's hard to like get a sense of Dodger because I'm watching the movie just with basic questions about him. Where are his parents? Does he have parents?
Yeah.
Who does he live with? Like he works for Captain Manzini at this antique store, but how did their relationship start? What is the relationship beyond boss and employee? He seems to like just because we never see any family. It just seems like, I don't know. Is he just roaming the city by himself? it's just very that. So it like fails on that level. Like you said, the whole relationship with Tangerine, the older lady. Oh, what's really funny is you watch the movie and it's Katie Barbary.
First of all, the older lady. That's so funny.
Well, Katie. Well, and that's the point I want to make. Is like Katie Barbary plays Tangerine, and like I've seen you just said how he's trying to like fuck this older girl, and I've seen a lot of reviews talk about how it feels like Tangerine is like grooming him. That caused me to like run online and see like what was their age difference when they made this movie, and it was only like she's just like 1 year older than him.
Yeah,
she just
exactly.
looks like 10 years older than him. Yeah, and I think I even read somewhere they were like maybe even dating like in real life during the movie, which is really weird when you see like what they look like. But yeah, like that relationship is bizarre as well, and the fact that she does not really become a love interest. In fact, the movie like teases that she might have a redemption arc, but then instead she just remains the villain. And like part of me is almost like, is that subversive? And the other part is, or is that just that Rod Amato doesn't know how to write a basic story? It's
right.
like it's very easy. I'm trying to avoid going like off into crazy tangents and ranting too much, but it's very easy to with this movie.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think what kept striking me during the movie, and when I say like I was confused about how it's made for, is the movie seems to keep going off in different tangents, and even sometimes including like the kind of subversive Mad Magazine type jokes you would expect from Garbage Pail Kids, but not enough to ever be the through line of the movie. Mm-hmm. There's a scene where the gang of punks that hate Dodger, led by the guy Juice, who's Tangerine's boyfriend, throw Dodger in the sewer, leaving him there to drown and die. It is attempted murder, by the way. Yeah. We should point out. And the rest of the movie, they're just trying to brutally beat him. But this is their one attempted murder. They try to drown him. But when they go in the sewer, we see all the different like sewer like pipelines, and there's like little stenciled words in them telling them where they go. And like some of them say like City Hall or whatever. But then like one says like primetime TV. And it's like, oh, okay, so they're putting in like a little like satire joke here of how they think primetime TV is garbage. But it's like, what is that joke doing in this movie?
Yeah.
Like if the movie was full of stuff like that, fine. And maybe I would like the movie more because like at least it's doing something. But it's just like there's like these weird moments like that. And I'm sure eventually we'll get into how just like, I don't know, like 2/3 of the way through the movie, they decide to add in the whole thing about like the home for the ugly, which just comes out of nowhere, and it's just like a diversion from the fashion storyline. Yeah, it's just a giant mess, and it's you're absolutely right that for a 97-minute movie, it feels like you're watching it for like the entire day because of the structure of it and the pacing. Yeah,
I kept asking myself too, like this Captain Manzini guy, like. He is the boss he owns this antique store, right? He obviously knows about the Garbage Pail Kids as well, and it's never treated as anything we never get to know the history, what's their backstory, what's their relationship, like did he encounter the Garbage Pail Kids when he was young and when it crash landed from space, because that's how the movie starts too. You alluded to it, that they're aliens. Like there's a nice touch of showing the cast as trading card form in the very beginning. That's all I'm giving you. That's all I'm giving you.
Yeah, Captain Manzini has some dialogue that even insinuates is like he's like immortal or something, or he's been living for like centuries, and we know he's kind of like a magical character. And yeah, I guarantee you, the Captain, I'm sure you had this thought as well. I guarantee you the Captain Manzini character owning the antique store and having this relationship with Garbage Pail Kids is because Rod Amato watched Gremlins and said, okay,
that's exactly
I'm gonna copy that, right? It's the old man with Gizmo, and so that's what Captain Manzini is. But yeah, it's also, but then on a basic storytelling level, it falls apart again because he is trying to keep the Garbage Pail Kids inside this this garbage pail because whenever they're out, they wreak havoc, and so he's trying to like make sure they never come out. So where does he? You say like, oh, does he keep it in a safe then, or like behind a concrete wall? No, it's in the middle of the antique store.
Yeah, it's on a shelf,
just sitting there. Yeah, and well, he puts it on the shelf at first, like later on, but at the beginning, it's just in the middle. And even to that point, this is great script writing. Dodger in the one of the very first scenes walks into the antique store, and we know he's been working there for he says I think he's been working there for a couple months at this time, but he walks in and the very first thing he says is, "Hey, Captain Mancini, how come we never use that garbage pail?" Definitely the first thing you would say when you walk in. But allowing Mancini to then talk about don't ever open the garbage pail. It's like Pandora's box, and yeah. So that's my thought is well, then maybe, put it on a high shelf or put it away,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. This movie's a lot funnier if you picture all the little people suffocating.
But even what we were saying about how my confusion about is the movie for kids or not? What were you just taken aback when? Okay, so we should mention obviously not every Garbage Pail Kid from the trade cards ever is in this.
No,
right? So they obviously
can I list them off? Do you want to just list them off? Okay,
yes.
We got Greaser Greg.
Mm-hmm.
We got Valerie.
50s Greaser. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, he talks like a New York accent. Yeah.
Did you see who was doing that voice, by the way?
Yeah, Jim Cummings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Voice of Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Valerie.
He said I don't want to shock you, but he later said he regretted doing this movie.
Oh, no shit. Valerie Vomit.
Yeah, I'm not going to explain that one.
No, me neither.
It speaks for itself. Yeah.
Your favorite guy, Alligator.
Mm-hmm. Human alligator hybrid. Yes.
Who wants to eat toes the whole movie?
Yeah. The entire movie talks about eating toes.
Yeah. Foul Phil. Mm. That's the one that looks like a baby, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Nat Nerd with a bunch of acne and pimple faces on him.
Who pisses his pants consistently through the movie.
Yes. Consistently. Yes. I think every line he has, he's peeing. Yeah. Windy Winston, which is the mega fart one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Farts on command. And then Messy Tessie, the snot one.
Whose nose is always running. Yeah.
Yes. And when they make the dresses and stuff, she uses her snot to glue on buttons and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they sure do.
Yeah,
so Adam Baum, the most famous Garbage Pail Kid, is not in this. Now, granted, I guess the question would be, is his head constantly exploding, or do we just do it the once? And if only once, what's the point of the character? But it's still interesting that they don't.
It would be nice at the end of the movie, he just explodes all of them. That'd be great.
Yeah, and us too. No, the point I want to make is going back to who is this for? Were you taken aback watching it and in your head you're thinking, okay, it's a kids movie. It's a little gross for a kids movie, but whatever. It's a kids movie. That's what they're trying to aim for. These are for kids, and the Garbage Pail Kids befriend Dodger. So it's okay, well they're friends with a kid. No, all right, they're kind of lovable, I guess, at least the way the movie presents them. Mm-hmm. And then Alligator keeps pulling out this lunchbox he has full of bloody human body parts that he's eating, and nobody bats an eye at it. Nobody says anything about it,
and keeps requesting body parts, and only if it's going to be extra bloody or the most rarest meat, and it's so bizarre. And who is it for? Not sure.
Well, it's in a moment like that, or a moment later where Greaser Greg and I think it's Messy Tessie come out of some kind of box they're in, and they've been playing doctor. And she says something about, oh, don't touch me there or something. And Greaser Greg has the stethoscope, and he's like, what? I'm just checking your heartbeat or something. And you're like, ugh, But then it's in those brief moments, you're like, oh, see, I as disgusting as all it is and as weird as it is, it's kind of again, I wish the movie pushed more in that direction, because then at least you would applaud the movie for really going over the top and being offensive. Yeah. So if this movie was really super duper offensive, then at least I'd say, well, all right, they were going for something, right? They were trying to make a weird John Waters kind of kids movie or something. But the movie fails to commit to anything. It doesn't want to be too offensive, even though it's Garbage Pail Kids. It doesn't want to be too kiddie, but it doesn't really want to be too adult. So it hovers in this weird middle ground. It wants to be about this fashion thing, but then it forgets about that and tries to put in this weird moral message about the state home for the ugly, this place in the city where they round up all ugly people, and suddenly it becomes they're aiming for like Terry Gilliam Brazil-esque satire, where it's like this really over the top like prison with these guards and everything, but that doesn't stylistically match with the rest of the movie. No. So it just is like full of shit that it doesn't commit to, and that's what makes it a frustrating experience.
I think one of the clearest examples of that is the bar fight. And when Alligator basically was like, oh, I'm gonna go have some fun, and he goes to a bar, like a dive bar full of bikers and this and that, and then he tries to eat the feet of some guy, and then everybody's like, what the hell? And then he's like on top of the counter, and they're all trying to get him, and then he's like, they get in this big brawl, but then all of a sudden they all love him, and it's
you know why that happens?
What?
Because there's a scene in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where he goes to a biker bar, knocks down all their bikes, they're going to kill him, and then he does the tequila dance, and they all love him. I swear to God, you can reverse engineer this movie and just realize they watched all these other movies of the time and just plucked things from them and said, put it in this one.
You know what? You nailed it. That's exactly what they were doing. Because I was sitting there the whole time being like, okay, well, I thought they'd like cause chaos and hijinks and this and that, but now you have the adults on their side too. And I just was like, this just doesn't thematically work. Again, I'm not looking for super themes in the Garbage Pail Kids movie, but at least consistency. So, just really, really fucking stupid.
They don't even give us the benefit of having Cassandra Peterson show up as like the biker queen in this one, though.
I know.
Yeah.
More connections to, the Elvira movie we talked about. I like that you mentioned the Stayed Home for the Ugly. Because oddly enough, I watched the show Wednesday on Netflix. Remember that show that came out 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And then they released 4 episodes 3 years later. Anyways, another Tim Burton connection. I watched that, and there is a plot line that the outcasts are being jailed and experimented on by normies, and very, very similar to this finale of this movie. They even call people normies if they're not uglies and weirdos.
I did have a moment where did you have it too when they said that and then they had to explain normies? Was there any part of you where you're like, is this movie honestly where that term started? But then I was like, well, no, like 5 people saw this movie, it can't be.
I would hope not. Yeah, I would hope not. Okay, can we just jump to the end of
Well, let's just stay on the Stay Home for the Ugly for just one more second.
Sure.
Because I know we keep just saying this way doesn't work and trying to explain why for people who haven't seen it. But here's another great example. So, because like that's
for the record, don't watch this movie.
No, don't. Not if you value your sanity and your time.
And your time.
And yeah. Because you might say it's only 97 minutes. No, it's a week long. The Stayed Home for the Ugly, this, like I said, it just kind of comes up the movie at a certain point, and you kind of feel like, okay, again, that could have been the movie, right? Because there is an interesting, worthwhile idea there.
Sure.
The idea that like, oh, they're putting the outcasts, they're putting the people who are too ugly for society in jail. They don't want them on the street, and to the point of even being super over the top, where they're kind of like almost like dog catchers out there catching people with these giant nets and throwing them in. Okay, not the worst idea for a Garbage Pail Kids movie. And as I said, if you were going to like just want the movie to be about the Garbage Pail Kids fighting like adult institutions or something, maybe it could have been that too. Like, oh well, they're fighting for the people with disabilities and who don't look like, the typical generic handsome people. I could have seen that. Except when we get to the Stayed Home for the Ugly, who are in the jail cells? There is a jail cell that says too fat. It's Santa Claus. There's a jail cell that says too skinny. It's Abraham Lincoln. What is this? What are they doing? I just had no idea what they were even aiming for at that scene. So I'm like, even like the slightest inkling of like a decent idea, they like torpedo by not understanding their own humor or what to do with it, and putting in like I don't know if that was trying to them be like the Zucker brothers for a moment or something, but I was just like, why? Why is there a Viking here? Like,
it's send this intern to the costume store, and you have $50.
Yeah.
Get whatever you can.
And I also want to point out that the person, and I don't know how I feel because you're supposed to be on the side of these people in jail cells, but I did notice that like the too weird jail cell was just like an effeminate guy. Okay.
Okay. We mentioned that Tangerine, the love interest, is actually using Dodger throughout the whole movie. It's revealed that she's just a bitch. And she's using this kid and his crush to get what she wants and to make a ton of money in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
And
she makes her own fashions, which she takes to clubs to sell to kids. And
Yes.
then she realizes that the Garbage Pail Kids like are somehow super gifted at fashion, so she turns them into like a little sweatshop.
Yes. It results in probably the most stone cold line in movie history.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of this movie, Dodger gets in a fight with Juice at the fashion show, right? First of all, the Garbage Pail Kids like just totally ruin it. They cause mayhem and chaos. And then Dodger shows up and he fights Juice, which is the boyfriend of Tangerine.
Who's been trying to murder him the whole movie. Yeah.
Correct.
That seems hilarious too, because as he's beating up Juice, he starts like crying.
He's cry punches him,
and he's like, it's not worth it. And like, it's like, does the movie think this is like? I think the movie actually thinks this is like super deep and like emotional, but it's just hilarious.
Oh, it's like it's strangely too real for a second. Yeah. So he's actually getting real trauma from this.
Yeah.
So after this all happens, Tangerine knows that she feels bad. Okay, she's like, oh man, I really shouldn't have used the Garbage Pail Kids, and Dodger, let's still go out and like let's hang out, and I'm we can be friends and we can do things, and maybe I will date you. That's basically what's happening, right? And Dodger looks her square in the fucking eyes, okay, and with all the power of cinema, says, "I don't think you're pretty anymore." And I was like, yo, dude, Tangerine's gonna fucking off herself. And the way he just turns away, walks off camera, looks at Tangerine's face, and she's like just dumbfounded. She doesn't know what to do with herself. Yeah. And that's the last we see of her. And
imagine then if the camera just kept on Dodger as he stone face walks back into his apartment, and we see his parents dead in the apartment. They've been dead for months by Dodger's hands.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah, man. That's Garbage Pail Kids. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, I understand Rod Amato was doing this for a paycheck. I get that. I get a lot of people wanted to capitalize on 1 billion trading cards that were just sold worldwide. I get that. I see that there's a fire burning, right? There's a spark of something that they want to capitalize on. I get that. But then you fundamentally make the worst decisions possible making it for somebody. Like, for why?
Not to say I understand this is a challenging movie to make, because obviously on a conceptual level, it is a trading card series.
Well, hold on. I was going to say, I don't think this is fit. I don't think this is fit for live action. Period. This is a concept that can work. Obviously it can work, but this is something that needs to be. This is a cartoon. This is a CGI animation. This is some sort of animation.
At best, a hybrid, right? Like
at best,
like
at best. But these nightmare fuel animatronics, even in today's world, like we just saw House with the Clock in its Walls, and that little baby, that Jack Black baby, was an animatronic, and it is terrifying. So. I don't think any amount of Stan Winston-esque technology can save you. I think this is a fundamentally flawed bring to live action situation.
There was a rumor that at one point early in development, they were like maybe thinking of this being like a horror movie, and that's like the only thing that like kind of makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that would have been the right choice either, but like to your point about how I think you could make, with like the best FX artists given time, I think you could make live action puppets and costumes of the Garbage Pail Kids that accurately recreate the trading cards and like are, like actually impressive on a technical level. What you're always going to butt up against is the fact that the Garbage Pail Kids are by their very nature meant to be grotesque.
Yes.
And meant to be like shocking and bizarre to look at. And that's the fun of the trading card series, but that's really hard to translate into live action. And what I was saying about the trading card thing is they don't have the advantage of Mars Attacks, where yes, that was a trading card series, but it was still a narrative one where it was telling a story, and you were trying to collect the cards in the right order, and they were numbered, and it was telling the story, and it's a whole story about Martians coming to Earth and us fighting back. This is just each card is like as a single joke, right? It's like, this kid is a skeleton. Oh, this kid has a really super runny nose and the snot's going everywhere. This kid's head is exploding. That's not a narrative, and so I get that it's challenging, but like I said. if you're dumb enough to try and make the narrative, the obvious answer is staring you right in the face of saying, well, this is a controversial card series that adults hate and kids love. Let's make that the story. And to just push that aside and say, I don't know, let's stick them in just a stereotypical weird story about like a kid getting involved in like the fashion industry.
Yeah.
Just, like I said, as I said earlier, it's just broken on a conceptual level. It was just never had a chance of working.
No.
Even beyond the rush production and everything. No. Just a series of what the hell are you thinking choices fueled this movie.
They asked Rod Amato if he would return to direct a sequel, and he said, more honesty from this guy, by the way. I said, no, I've gone this far. I go no further. But I will be happy to advise and help, and even help with the writing and choice of director. There's plenty of young guys around who'd love to do it, but I'm too old for this shit. And then he died in 2003.
Yep.
By Dodger's hand. I'm glad you watched that documentary, because in the research and the notes, Mark Newgarden had a lot to say about this film. And I'm sure him and many talked in that documentary about things he didn't like, but he says here, I think it was a stupid idea of a stupid screenplay with stupid designs made for a cacophony of stupidity, he says. It's nothing but a painful memory. I sat through the movie once, and that was one too many. I'm still in denial and still hoping it will go away forever. So when you have the creative team behind this highly successful novelty item flat out say that this is total trash, pun unintended, that's a kick in the pants, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's a kick in the pants. Where do we go from here?
Well, the Garbage Pail Kids have lived on, we should say.
Yes.
Yeah. The trading cards, they were still popular when they came out. They chugged along for a couple more years. As I said, they kind of lost a little bit of popularity after that lawsuit, and they changed the designs and new artists were brought in. But I think also just the trading card market burnt out. And obviously the problem with any kids product is kids grow up,
Yeah.
And you might say like, well, we'll get the next generation of kids, but there's going to be new products for that next generation of kids. So it's tough to keep things, relevant forever. But it is a thing where it went away, and then obviously what happens with a lot of these kids properties, we talked about it before, is the kids who are really into it grow up and suddenly have more disposable income as adults, and they also get put in charge of companies. And so over the years, multiple times, the Garbage Pail Kids have been revived by Topps. I think they were revived like once in 2007 and then again in 2012, and they would do like reissues of the old cards and would mix in some new artwork. And I think to this day, like annually Topps puts out like a new set of Garbage Pail Kids. So the cards exist, even if it's not quite the same cultural phenomenon. There's been some attempts to like get other versions of the movie going. Different people have been involved. I think at one point like Danny McBride was like maybe attached to, wasn't that in the research?
Yeah, his production company was developing a animated series for HBO Max. This actually was only in about 2021, 2022. So that was happening maybe, and at this point, who knows? I would probably say that's dead, but we'll see.
And then, interestingly enough, in another Matrix moment for us, so we talked about the weapons Matrix moment. We talked about the Eli Roth Matrix moment. If you listen to our previous episode, the same episode where we talked about Eli Roth being a coattail writer for Quentin Tarantino, you also heard us talk about how neither of us were that familiar with the House of the Clock and Swallows book, but we were both huge Goosebumps fans, and we went on a whole like kind of tangent about Goosebumps as a property. Cut to a couple days later, I'm at my one of my jobs working at Barnes & Noble, and I go over to look at the Goosebumps books because we've been talking about them, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to see which ones we have, just because Chris and I talked about this the other day. And my eyes are scrolling down the shelf, and what do I see? What am I reminded of that I did know, but I'd totally forgotten, right? What am I suddenly reminded of that I had to pull out my phone and film the shelf to send to Chris? Is that R.L. Stine, who I called one of the most prolific writers ever, he's not only still writing Goosebumps books, he is also currently writing Garbage Pail Kids books. There is a series of Garbage Pail Kids novels written by R.L. Stine. So yeah, it's all connected. What a crazy web this is all.
Summer Surprise has been labyrinthian, to say the least. Yeah.
I will say, like, as miserable as this was,
Sure.
I do think it's kind of perfect that Summer Surprise culminated with this movie, because this really was one of the movies this show had to do. This is really one of the all-timers, and it really does kind of encapsulate everything this show is about. You know, and the only thing it's like missing is this wasn't made by a giant studio, but still the fact that any company like approached this property and made the decisions they did and thought they were going to get a franchise out of it. Yeah, I mean, and just like we've talked before about the crazy excesses of like the 80s and like the weird kind of stylistic choices that were made back then, how some of them would work and some of them wouldn't. Just there's a lot wrapped up in this. This is a way more interesting movie to think about and talk about than it is to watch. You know, I did walk away from the movie. Like the movie is touched on briefly in the documentary about the history of the franchise, but I did kind of walk away from this saying, boy, I'll never watch that movie again, but I would watch maybe like an in-depth documentary about the making of it if you could get like everybody involved to kind of try and explain themselves. You know?
At gunpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like I said before, right up top. This was again, pun unintended again, but this is just zero stars. This is monumentally bad.
Do you think it deserved a sequel?
Yeah, of course. No, no, absolutely not. It does. Every copy deserves to be burned.
It's gonna be a big fat no for me too, dog.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Let me ask you
another question though. Which do you think is like the better part of Art Spiegelman's legacy, Mouse or Garbage Pail Kids?
What is Mouse?
Oh wow, you guys didn't read Mouse? And Mouse is that like graphic novel about the Holocaust, but the Nazis are cats and the Jewish people are mice.
No, in Canada we were actually taught real history, not just this fiction.
No, it's like he won the. This is what's amazing is like the reason my intro is like, and the reason it's like fascinating that he's the guy that co-created Garbage Pail Kids. His Mouse is incredible, and he like won the Pulitzer for that. And it's like so good that it's used in a lot of schools to kind of teach that.
Sounds like it needs to be used more often nowadays.
This is true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the Garbage Pail Kids movie. I'm glad we got it over with, honestly.
Yeah, it was kind of like, you know, it was kind of hovering over us like a sort of Damocles, you know, like just waiting. So it was something the Band-Aid has been pulled off. In fact, us pulling Band-Aids off, you could probably make Garbage Pail Kids cards out of that.
Yeah, Barry Band-Aid. Okay, we're done. Summer Surprise. Honestly, super successful. Like I did have a lot of fun. Yes, this was a nightmare to watch, but just in general, I found it so. I love Summer Surprise. If you're new to the podcast, crazy that you would pick this episode first. But we do this every year. We take an online randomizer, and it just picks the movies for, you know, usually we do it in July, August. So, go check those out in our past there. But no, this one was fun. I thought there was a lot of variety at first. Yeah. Okay, but going forward, we're moving into September. And we love our themes, so we're going to give you a double hitter, a double shaft, some may say. So we're doing double shafted September. September 9th, we're looking at Shaft from 2000, starring Sam Jackson. And then on September 23rd, we're watching Shaft, starring Sam Jackson. From 2019. This was the attempt at a Lego sequel, but handing the reins over to a new franchise starter. So don't come for us.
Well, don't forget these were both legacy sequel attempts. These were both reboots of the original Shaft from 1971.
Right. So double shafted September.
Yeah. The only reason we're not doing triple shafted is because the first one actually managed to get sequels. So.
Yeah. All right. Follow along at F2FPod. That's at F2, the number 2FPod on all the socials. Like us there, like us everywhere. Rate, review, whatever you do. Give us a shining star rating. I was like, what's the term? And then follow. What do I say? Join the tribe and hit that subscribe. And let's get shafted.
And please, it can't be said enough, for the love of God, do not watch the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Do not watch it. Yeah,
Do
absolutely
not make the same mistakes we have made with our life.
No. Check out that documentary, though.
Yeah, I do
What's it
recommend
called?
the documentary.
What's it called?
30 Years of Garbage.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm not going to watch it.
Chris, can I just really quickly, you know what's weird? You know the Razzies, and obviously Garbage Pail Kids was nominated for a bunch of Razzies.
Of course.
And I think you're like me in just thinking the Razzies are really shitty anyways, and they're like, you know, stupid, pointless, usually misogynistic. But there's like actually like a lot of different versions of the Razzies, and I noticed on IMDb trivia, this movie, Garbage Pail Kids, was nominated for Worst Picture at the Hastings Bad Cinema Society's 10th annual Stinkers Bad Movie Awards in 1987.
Okay.
I want to read you what it was nominated against, because I'm going to blow your mind here.
Okay.
So this was the Bad Movie like of the Year award, right? It was Garbage Pail Kids, Ishtar, Leonard Part 6, Who's That Girl, and those all lost to Spaceballs.
Unreal.
I know. Can you believe
What?
I was already angry about watching the Garbage Pail Kids movie, and then I read that, and my anger just like, I looked like Adam Bomb. My head exploded.